If you're after one of the greatest vehicles in World of Tanks, there could be none other than the American Tier 7 heavy tank, the T29, and that is one of the features of today's video, where we look at, of course, how powerful this vehicle is in game, as well as why it is one of the nicest heavies that you can play, and you don't necessarily have to have spent much time on the game. It is in fact part of one of the nicest tech tree lines that you can also get as well, leading up to the T125, and it's a great place to start World of Tanks console if you are a newer player. And of course, if you're a more experienced player, this thing just becomes disgusting, and you're going to see two replays in today. This first one is something that I just never expected to be able to pull off the damage result that we did, especially in the scenario. So it's one of those where not only did we have a good game, but we also did it in a scenario that was just, yeah, not expected, like we said. But first things first, this map. Now, this map is not necessarily the most, I guess, intuitive as to having an amazing game when it comes to a heavy tank. It's very subjective as to whether you're going to have a good game. It relies upon your team, and relying upon your team is, I mean, you guys know what it's like when you try and rely on random people online. It usually doesn't go very well, and that's exactly what happens in this, as a little spoiler. But that's not what the video's about. It's not about the team, it's about the tank, and the T29 is definitely one that you should fear within the game. And there is, of course, many vehicles on the enemy team that could potentially be a threat, and of course the opposite number, the Minuteman, is the premium version of this vehicle, and let's just say that that tank gets a lot more spaced armour all over the vehicle, because it's a mercenary tank. Because, you know, when wargaming, we're going out and about and deciding that tech tree premiums that were already brilliant and slapping loads of spaced armour and making them minutely worse in other areas than the tech tree counterparts was apparently balanced. But, you know, at least we're past that stage of mercenaries, but wargaming keep kind of pretending, or at least stating, that they're going to be releasing more mercenary tanks, so beware. Not looking forward to it, especially after the current AVRE problem that we've been seeing. But I digress. What is special about the T29? Well, it is the fact that this is a very, very accurate heavy tank that has decent mobility, a superb turret for the tier. It is also very, very reliable when you can get it hold down because of that turret, and also the reload is good, the damage per minute is also fantastic, and that allows you to really devastate opponents. You can see me here playing up against pretty much the entire enemy team because, yay, I mean, so fun, but for some reason the enemy team aren't deciding to push round, and that's probably because we're trying to track them, keep them locked in place, and that's exactly what you should be doing in the T29. You're seeing me here actually getting behind the M6 that has been taken out on our team, and this is probably one of the most vital things that we could do in the T29, because remember, when you've got such a strong turret, you might as well use it. And although we have some people coming from behind, there's no point in turning our tank towards them since there's only one of them and the majority of tanks are in front. If, for example, we turn our turret to the left, we're probably going to end up getting absolutely steamed, so we're not going to do that, and we're going to expose the majority of our turret to the majority of the tanks, which is obviously never going to end up well. Now, at this point, I've already decided I'm going to probably be taken out in this game. There's no surprise there. The enemy Minuteman obviously bouncing off the hull, not expecting that, but either way, just continually ploughing. And you can see if you play this tank as this role where you're able to kind of get behind something and just cause havoc, you can certainly be a annihilating force. But remember, it does take about 7 tanks to take you out. So yeah, and along the way you're going to be able to pick up some damage as well. So 4,000 damage in this tier 7, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, we're going to lose as well, even though I basically single-handedly was fighting off 7 tanks for the majority of that game at this point. We do actually end up winning somehow, which I was surprised about, but either way, a very, very good result, and showcases that the tank is very strong, as you've just seen. Obviously, that was a top tier matchup in the T29, but what about when you are a lower tier vehicle? Of course, this is tier 8, so we still do meet up against tier 6s, which is nice. but you know, you do have to face tier 8 some from time to time, and in fact you'll probably be facing quite a few tier 9s as well, but unfortunately we don't have any replays of a tier 9 game. It was just kind of getting lucky with the matchmaker, I guess, when I played this tank, and so yeah, I'm not going to go out looking for a tier 9 game, but either way, what we've got here, we've got a matchup on one of my favourite maps in the game. I think it's got a little bit of everything. I kind of like this map. I feel like it's somewhat balanced to a degree, and yeah, it's always a nice one. Now, for some reason, the enemy Snakebite is deciding to YOLO at the beginning of the game, typical fast tank driver, and then throws himself off a cliff. So brilliant result for the enemy tier 6 light tank. Yeah, really good use of his time. But at least he can go and pick some other tank in some other battle and YOLO someone else. But either way, we don't manage to receive any damaging hits, which is nice, and we also picked up 660 damage on him. This tank has 320 alpha, so it's got a fairly meaty gun, but because of the rate of fire of this tank, you're actually able to pick up quite a bit of damage over the time that you can fire. So it's always a nice one to be able to do that. And what I always like about this tank is that you can be pretty pinpoint accurate at the same time. So that allows you to get assistance damage, it allows you to cover your reload, because you know you're only waiting about 8 seconds to reload in this thing, as opposed to some of the Soviet tanks where you might be waiting 10, 11, 12 seconds, something in that region, which gives this a little bit more flexibility than some of those things like the IS. And if you saw my IS video recently, you'll probably have seen how good that tank is as well, and both of these tanks at the tier are fantastic. The tier 7 heavies seem to be very dominant at the tier that they're in because of the fact that they do have good gun handling, especially with update 6.0's changes to the handling of all of the main armaments, etc., whereby accuracy really doesn't become a problem in World of Tanks console anymore, really, unless you're playing something like a derp, like a KV2, but you know, that is what it is. So in this game, 1600 damage, not bad whatsoever. But one thing that I also want to note about the tank is that because you're usually quite far forward, you can get a bit of spotting damage. Now, this game, not really a showcase of that. But when you are forward and you do use advanced optics, which I usually use in most of my heavies just because it just basically allows you to spot anyone that's going to be able to spot you after they fire. So, I mean, it's just like one of those things where it's like I don't really need the extra mobility, etc. As long as you're positioning yourself quite well, it doesn't tend to be a problem. Now you can see here the Scorpion on the enemy team obviously getting spotted. I don't know why he didn't pull all the way back, but of course sitting there out in the open and then gets taken out by the artillery piece after we track him, so always love that. Go for a shot on the Scorpion, not surprised that that one didn't hit, but either way we'll take it. And then having done the 2200 that we've done, we're just looking to get as much damage and push forward, because at this point in the game looks like it's going to be a win, quite an easy matchup. The enemy team have kind of been sandwiched into one area of the map, so it's not really going to be a problem for us, and you can see we're just trying to get as much damage on the enemy Astron Rex there. Of course, the Astron Rex being that autoloader that can kind of pump you quite easily actually, so you have to be a little bit careful when thinking about it. Now I'm trying to get a shot on the Firefly. It shouldn't have fired when I was on the move. I don't know why I bothered doing that. And then of course some terrible decision making there when there was an Ariete literally sat there waiting for me to hit him. So yeah, not ideal, but it doesn't really matter when you have this tank. Well, it does if you're in a very clutch scenario, but we're not really in that right now, and so I'm just trying to get as much damage as possible. If I was maybe loading a PCR as the premium round, since it's faster, I might have been able to hit that Ariete, which is kind of a little bit annoying, but either way, we're still going after the Scorpion G. And you don't need to fire premium in this thing to make it work. It has more than enough penetration at tier 8 to pen literally everything. And once again, a terrible use of my auto aim. I should literally not have been using the auto aim in that one. And again, probably shouldn't have auto aimed that one either. But alas, it doesn't matter because we get lucky, I guess. As always, I always recommend you actually do a fully aim when you're playing in World of Tanks. If you don't, it's either that you don't really need the hit points, or it doesn't really matter if they do. If it does actually get a bit unlucky and you don't manage to pen, etc., then it's not a problem. But you know, what we're aiming for in this game is to push forward as fast as possible, since I'm not worried about losing the hit points. We had full health at that point in the game, so it's just about getting as far forward, maybe getting some assistance damage. Unfortunately, I was looking for the Schmiel before he gets taken out, but he gets taken out by the Ragnarok, which is always fun. But we're hoping that we can get some assistance. You see, we're probably the ones that spotted the SU-100, and of course we did share the assistance with the SU, only managed to get half of the assistance, but we still pick up 1,000 assists as well as 2,900 damage as well. And the Astron's looking down here at getting the Super Hellcat. Maybe we'll be able to jump on him. I was hoping that we would, but whether that will actually come to fruition, I don't know. We find ourselves up against this lovely rock, and the Astron gets taken out by the Barask. So either way, we pick up 3,200 damage and 1,000 assists, so 4,200 combined, and of course come top in the game in a tier 8 matchup, having got the silver bonus as well from the operation recently. Maybe we'll even go for the 3 or even 4 marks on the T29, as I played this as one of my first vehicles in World of Tanks console, which is why it hasn't been showcased on the channel in a long time, if not ever. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this little breakdown of the T29, the tier 7 American Heavy. And if you want to check out the tier 7 Soviet Heavy, the IS, then I'll leave a link on screen right now. And I hope you join me on that one. If not, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I hope you join me back on another video soon. Goodbye.